You ever get that feeling when something's off, but you can't explain it? That was me last Thursday night. I was late leaving practice. JV ran long, and the varsity quarterback needed another pep talk after a bad snap nearly cost us the district title. I'm locking up the weight room, heading to my truck, and the stadium lights are just flickering off behind me. That eerie kind of quiet when the town exhales after a game. I open my truck, toss my clipboard in the passenger seat. Then I see it. A used condom. Tied off. Nestled under the edge of my floor mat like it was deliberately hidden. My brain didn't catch up to my body. I just froze. I haven't had sex in weeks. My wife, Dana? She's been too tired. Too busy with the school fundraiser. Too stressed with the board. And that's when the pit opened in my stomach. Now, look, I've coached football for over 2 decades. I've seen fumbles, blindside sacks, broken ribs. But nothing hit me like that second of realization. I sat there, staring at the damn thing like it was going to explain itself. My hand hovered over it like I was afraid it'd bite me. I drove home in silence, windows down, hoping the wind would clear my head. It didn't. When I walked through the front door, Dana was on the couch in leggings and a hoodie, scrolling on her iPad like she hadn't just blown up my life. She smiled at me. How was practice? I kissed her on the forehead. Didn't say a word. Just walked upstairs. I needed time. I needed proof. But mostly, I needed to remember who the hell I was dealing with. I didn't sleep that night. I laid there beside Dana, listening to her shallow breaths and the occasional twitch in her leg. She always did that, right as she drifted off. Her body would jolt, like she was falling in a dream. Used to be cute. Now it just pissed me off. That condom hadn't gotten there by accident. Someone was in my truck. Someone had used my truck. And the only person who'd had access besides me was Dana. The keys sit in the dish by the front door every day. Hell, she used it last week to haul the damn raffle baskets for the school auction. At 3 a.m., I slipped out of bed and went downstairs. I opened her calendar on the kitchen island. Nothing suspicious. Then I grabbed her phone off the charger. Password protected. Not new, she'd always had one. But suddenly, it felt intentional. My instincts told me not to go full scorched earth yet. I needed to observe. So, over the next few days, I watched. Closely. She left for her school board committee lunch on Tuesday. Said it was at the Olive Garden near the freeway. I followed, about 15 minutes behind. Parked across the lot. Waited. She wasn't there. I drove the perimeter. Nada. No Dana. No school board members. But later that day, she came home with a fresh takeout bag from Olive Garden and casually tossed the receipt on the counter like she was covering her tracks before I even asked. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to know who. So I did what I hadn't done in years. I called Jeff, an old buddy who still ran surveillance gigs part-time out of his PI license. Jeff, I need eyes on Dana, I said. You sure? He asked. Because once I start, I don't stop until I know everything. You might not like it. I'm not asking what I'll like, I said. I'm asking for the truth. By Thursday, I had my answer. Jeff sent me a photo. Dana, smiling, wearing the same blue dress she told me was too snug lately. Sitting across from Bryce Carson, our school board president. The same smug bastard who tried to get me to retire gracefully last year so he could bring in his nephew from Savannah to coach. They were at the Rockwell, a steakhouse she told me she couldn't afford. And her hand? It wasn't holding a fork. It was on his wrist. That's when the rage started to boil, not just at her, but at how stupid she must have thought I was. I built our life. Paid off this house. Coached generations of kids. And now I was the fool? The background prop? I looked at the photo again. Her head was tilted, eyes soft, laughing. And for the first time in my life, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw my enemy. That picture of Dana with Bryce didn't just burn into my brain. It lit something in me I hadn't felt in years. I've been sleepwalking through marriage for the last decade. Dana said I was too focused on football, too emotionally distant, that she needed more connection. She got her connection, all right, with a man who wears Italian loafers to board meetings and once called my locker room barbaric. Bryce Carson was the type of guy who corrected your grammar while screwing your wife. But what Dana forgot, what they both forgot, is that I've built an empire in this town. I'm not just a football coach. I'm Coach Michael Layton. I shook hands with every business owner who sponsors our program. I helped rebuild the high school gym after the tornado. I'm the reason Bryce even has parents voting for him in this district. They think I'm going to blow up? Get emotional? Start throwing plates and begging for answers? No. They wanted a fool, they married one. But I'm a planner. I play for the long game. First thing I did was rekey the garage and lockbox. Quietly. Second thing? I moved our family savings covertly into a separate account under my brother's name. Dana never checked balances. She just tracked the available to spend number like it was a gas gauge. Next, I started watching her patterns. Dana was always careful. She turned off notifications, took her phone to the bathroom, erased call logs. But she wasn't used to lying at a professional level. She didn't think I'd notice she always left for her planning committee an hour early and came home looking flushed. So I baited her. One afternoon, I came home from practice earlier than usual, pretending to have a sprained knee. I left an ace bandage around my leg and parked down the street so she'd think I was still out. At 4:37 p.m., her phone buzzed on the counter. I watched from the crack in the hallway mirror as she read it, bit her lip, and started changing into that same blue dress. I limped to the bathroom, flushed the toilet for cover, and came out whistling. She jumped like I'd caught her stealing. "Didn't know you were home," she said. "Didn't know you had plans," I replied. "Oh, yeah, school board dinner thing. Didn't see it on the calendar." She blinked. "I must have forgotten. You're good at that lately." She tilted her head. "Excuse me." I said drive safe. I smiled. She didn't respond. Just grabbed her keys and left. I watched her taillights vanish. Then I called Jeff. "Tonight," I said. "Get me everything. Video, audio. If she's meeting Bryce, I want to know where, how often, and if he's dumb enough to keep anything on his phone." He laughed. "You got it, coach. Game on." I didn't tell Jeff the real reason I needed it all, because this wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about taking her down. Saturday morning, 6:15 a.m. I hadn't slept more than an hour, but I was wide awake. Jeff dropped a flash drive into my mailbox at dawn. No words. Just a red Sharpie across the top. Be sure. I brewed a pot of coffee, pulled the shades, and locked the front door behind me. Sat down at the kitchen table like it was a war room. Inserted the drive into my laptop. It started with timestamps, 3 weeks' worth of surveillance. Dana and Bryce. Every dinner, every stop, every hotel. The Rockwell. That boutique hotel near the Riverwalk. A damn Airbnb in the next county, because apparently screwing your husband's enemy is easier with exposed brick walls and mood lighting. The video files were grainy, but clear enough. Dana wore her hair down in most of them. She smiled the way she used to smile at me before the Booster Club banquet, before the ring, before the kids and the house. The audio was worse. Worse than I was prepared for. Dana, whispering over wine. "He thinks I'm just tired lately. He still kisses me on the forehead like I'm his nurse." Bryce, chuckling. "You said he never noticed anything." "Oh, Michael notices. He's just too proud to admit he's been replaced." Then, "We should talk to the board soon. Once the retirement plan kicks in, the money'll come through. Then we can." I slammed the lid of the laptop so hard the ceramic mug rattled off the table and shattered. That wasn't just betrayal. That was strategy. They weren't just sleeping together. They were plotting. Dana was positioning herself to gut me cleanly, take the pension, take the respect, take everything I built, and hand it to Bryce with a goddamn bow on it. I needed to think, not react. I poured a double of bourbon at 7:12 a.m. sharp. Then I did something I hadn't done in 10 years. I walked out to the shed, opened the locker chest under my old fire pit tools, and pulled out the storage bin marked District 09 tape. Inside wasn't just game footage. It was a treasure trove of mistakes and leverage. Footage of school board meetings, bar nights, booster parties. I'd kept everything back then, paranoia or instinct, I don't know. And sure enough, there he was. Bryce Carson. 3 beers deep, back in 2011, at a post-vote cocktail event. Hand on the ass of a married PE teacher who quit the next semester. Slurred jokes. A racial slur that slipped out on camera. I stared at that paused frame for a long time. They wanted to play power games? Fine. They forgot I owned the field. By Monday morning, I had a plan, and not just some emotional mess of revenge. This was going to be surgical. Clean. Cold. A game called on my terms. Step 1. Control the narrative. I walked him to school like it was just another week. Waved to the front office staff. Made jokes with the janitor. Kids were already buzzing about our Friday matchup against South Creek. Bryce would be there, front row, smiling like a campaign poster. Dana would probably wear her fake booster grin and play devoted wife, clapping every time we gained 10 yards. I'd let them keep pretending, because behind the curtain, I was loading the gun. First thing I did was book a consult with a lawyer. Not a divorce guy, a financial strategist. Someone who understood how to quietly insulate assets without triggering alarms. I told him, let's say, hypothetically, someone wanted to protect what they built in case of betrayal. He nodded. Hypothetically, I'd say you're already 6 months behind schedule. Then we'd better move fast. I set up a new LLC. Shifted all coaching merchandise revenue into it. Redirected endorsement checks. Quietly moved our joint savings into a trust under my name. Dana wouldn't even know it was gone until her debit card got declined at the boutique wine shop. Next, I went hunting. See, Bryce wasn't just a sleaze, he was messy. Always had been. The type of man who thought charm could clean up anything. But charm doesn't cover paper trails. I remembered a rumor from years back that Bryce helped his cousin win a school landscaping contract by greasing the selection committee. Nothing ever proven. But I called Jeff again. 3 days later, he handed me a packet, invoices, contractor logs, board meeting transcripts, and a 3-minute voicemail from Bryce to said cousin that ended with, "Just split the invoice. We'll make it look like tree work." Gotcha. But I still needed a cherry on top, something with heat. That's when I remembered Trisha Webb. She used to be Dana's best friend. Ran the cheer squad. Left town 5 years ago after a nervous breakdown. But I always suspected it had more to do with a certain board member's wandering hands. I reached out, tracked her down through alumni records, sent her a message. She called me back that night. "Michael, I can't believe you're calling. I know this is out of the blue, Trisha, but I think I know what happened. With Bryce." Silence. Then a shaky breath. "You have no idea how long I've waited for someone to ask." And just like that, the dam cracked. She had screenshots. Emails. A signed NDA she was pressured into. The night he locked the faculty lounge door. She was scared back then, young, unsure, pushed out with hush money and whispers. I kept everything she said, in case someone else ever needed it. I did. I thanked her. Promised to protect her. When I hung up, I looked at the mess on my kitchen table, papers, photos, USB drives, old game tapes. This wasn't just a personal betrayal anymore. This was war. And I was going to win. Friday night lights. The field glowed. The stands roared. We were up by 21 in the third quarter, and I could feel it in my bones. Every kid playing their heart out, every father in the stands screaming like it was the Super Bowl. South Creek didn't stand a chance. Not on my field. But I wasn't watching the scoreboard. I was watching them. Bryce stood near the 50-yard line in his stupid campaign jacket, one hand in his pocket, the other loosely curled around Dana's hip like she was property. She smiled up at him, then looked away quick, too quick. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she was just worried someone might notice. She should have been worried. Because this was the night I started cutting. During halftime, while the marching band was finishing their routine, I stepped into the media booth. Just for a minute. I handed a flash drive to Jake, one of my AV students who owed me a favor for covering up his vape stash last semester. "You know that post-game slideshow we run for the local sponsors?" I asked. "Yeah, coach. Swap this file in. Trust me." He looked nervous, but nodded. "You got it." I patted his shoulder and left. Didn't need to explain more. Didn't want to. Because right at the end of the game, while the kids were lining up to shake hands and the crowd was still clapping, a new slideshow started running across the Jumbotron. At first, it looked like usual highlights. Players tackling, touchdown celebrations. Sponsors. Then it cut. To a still image. A blurry hotel hallway. A woman in a blue dress. Another man's hand pulling her close. Then it flipped, frame by frame, into grainy security footage. Bryce's car in the Rockwell hotel lot. Dana exiting the passenger side, adjusting her blouse. A date stamp. A time. You could hear the crowd start to murmur. Then silence. Then someone near the booster tent gasped, "Is that?" I stepped away from the field, into the tunnel, as chaos erupted behind me. By the time Dana realized what was happening, half the stadium had seen it. She ran toward the AV booth screaming. Bryce bolted across the track like a rat fleeing a sinking ship. One of the reporters from the Beacon Ledger already had their phone out, filming. And me? I was already in my truck, driving home slow. Because that was step one. The exposure. Not just to embarrass them, but to turn the town against them. To show every board member, every PDA mom, every nose-in-the-air neighbor who they really were. But don't get me wrong. That was just the warm-up. Next came the pain. I didn't show up at school Monday morning. Let them wonder. I let the rumors stew, let Bryce squirm, let Dana choke on the silence. I knew how these people worked. Respect was currency. But scandal? That was wildfire. And once it caught, no amount of smoothing over could stop the spread. At 9:17 a.m., my phone lit up. Principal Martinez. Didn't answer. 10 minutes later, voicemail from Dana. I listened on speaker while eating toast over the sink. Michael, we need to talk. Please. This isn't the way. Can you just call me? You're making a mistake. We made a mistake. But we don't have to burn it all down. Too late. By noon, Jeff texted me 3 screenshots from the parent Facebook group. One showed Bryce's SUV parked outside the Rockwell again. Another post was titled, "So this is who decides our budget now?" The comments were brutal. And perfect. At 3 p.m., Bryce's PR rep posted a generic, "We are aware of an edited and unauthorized video" statement. Nobody bought it. By 4, 2 board members had already privately reached out to me to schedule a conversation. I didn't reply. Yet. Because I wasn't finished. See, I still hadn't used the ace in my hand, Trisha. I'd already had my lawyer look over her NDA. Turns out it was garbage. Not only could she legally share her story, she had evidence that Bryce had used district funds to pay off her relocation. That meant embezzlement, which meant jail time. We sat down in a coffee shop that evening. She was nervous. Wore sunglasses and a hoodie like she was avoiding paparazzi. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked. Trisha nodded. "I've had nightmares for 6 years, Michael." He took my dignity and bought my silence. "But watching your video, that lit something in me. I'm done being scared." She signed the affidavit. She gave me the emails. The next morning, I forwarded it all, anonymously, to the Beacon Ledger editor, to the Board of Education Ethics line, and to a reporter at Channel 7 who'd been sniffing around booster scandals for months. Boom. By Wednesday morning, Bryce's name was in headlines. Improper conduct allegations surface against school board president. Dana hadn't returned to campus since the game. Rumors swirled she was holed up in a cousin's lake house. But me? I walked back into school that day in a crisp gray polo. Kids high-fived me in the hallway. Teachers gave those little nods. The janitor clapped me on the back and said, "Damn, coach. Whatever you did, you done did it." But it wasn't done yet. That night, I opened a new email account. Typed a message. To bryce.carson@district.org. Subject, final score. Body. You thought you'd win by gutting me from the inside. You forgot I built this place. See you at the board hearing. Attached was a photo, the tape from 2011, still frame of him groping the PE teacher. His hand. Her face. The timestamp clear as day. I had sinned. And poured myself a bourbon. I'd always been a coach. A builder. A man who believed in redemption. But some games? They end in blood. The boardroom smelled like fear and cheap perfume. Thursday night. 6 p.m. sharp. The emergency school board ethics hearing had been rushed together in less than 48 hours, and that alone told me how deep the panic went. The local press packed the rear. Channel 7's van was parked out front. Bryce Carson, former Golden Boy, sat stiff in a blazer that looked suddenly too tight across the shoulders. And Dana? She sat 5 seats away. No eye contact. Not once. They thought this was going to be about damage control. Apologies. Maybe a forced resignation with a severance handshake. They didn't understand. I wasn't there to negotiate. I was there to finish the season. The lead ethics officer, Mrs. Terrence, cleared her throat. We've received multiple submissions alleging misconduct, misuse of district funds, and a pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates, she began, voice flat, eyes on Bryce. He shifted. His lawyer reached for his notes. But it didn't matter. Because that's when the second envelope hit the table. From me. I stood. "I apologize for the interruption," I said. "But there's more." I handed over the second batch. Trisha's signed affidavit, financial records of hotel reimbursements logged under District Liaison Travel, and, just for flavor, 3 emails from Bryce's campaign address marked urgent, delete. Terrence's lips thinned. Bryce's lawyer turned white. Dana? Still frozen, staring straight ahead like a marble statue. This isn't about infidelity, I said. This is about corruption, manipulation, and a betrayal of public trust. You're not even on the board, Bryce barked. You don't get to speak here. Terrence waved him down. Mr. Callahan has standing. He submitted the original evidence. It took all of 2 hours. By the end, the board voted 7-0 to suspend Bryce pending criminal investigation. They read the charges aloud. Words like fraud, ethical breach, sexual coercion. He didn't even try to fight it, just gathered his briefcase and stormed out, cameras clicking. Dana followed, wordless. She brushed past me, her perfume stale, her eyes hollow. Not a single word. No, I'm sorry. No, you were right. Just nothing. And that silence? It felt colder than any lie she'd ever told. The next morning, I stood in my garage, staring at our wedding photo, boxed up with the Christmas decorations. 24 years. Gone like smoke. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I drove it to the dump, tossed the whole box into the pile, watched it burn. Some things you don't repair. You bury them. Deep. I didn't file for divorce right away. Let the vultures circle first. The town was still buzzing. Every grocery aisle, every bar stool, every church pew. People whispered the same names. Bryce. Dana. Coach Callahan. I didn't hide from it. I walked into town like I owned it. Because I used to. And now, I was something different. Something meaner. Cleaner. The school board offered me a compassionate sabbatical. I declined. Took my classroom back. Reopened weight room hours. Got the boys running extra laps. Because while Bryce and Dana scrambled to salvage scraps of reputation, I was putting the house back in order. But the house itself? That was another story. I came home one night and found Dana standing in the kitchen. She didn't say hello, just handed me a folder. Inside, a letter from her lawyer. Divorce request. Mutual consent. No alimony. She was leaving town. I'm not fighting you, she said. You already did, I answered. You just didn't win. She stood there, looking older than I remembered. Not ruined, just hollowed out. The look of someone who'd built their life out of borrowed power and found out too late it wasn't theirs to keep. I loved you once, she whispered. I shook my head. No, you loved what I was. The coach. The safe bet. The steady paycheck and clean public image. You wanted the front row of a winning team. But you never once cared what it cost to keep it together. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She left the papers on the table and walked out. She didn't take anything with her. Not even her wedding ring. I waited 3 weeks. Then I sold the house. I moved into a small place out by the lake. Just me, a dog I adopted from the shelter, and my silence. No more rehearsed speeches. No school board backroom deals. No pretend dinner parties. Just the crackle of the radio, a line in the water, and the occasional knock from a player needing advice. It wasn't glory, but it was mine. And then one day, sitting on that dock, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. Inside, a photo of Dana, taken on her phone. She looked different, tired, aged, thin. The note was 2 lines long. You were right. I didn't lose you. I lost myself trying to be someone else's prize. No name. No apology. Didn't need one. I folded the photo in half and tossed it into the fire pit. Watched it curl and burn. 6 months later, I stood at the 50-yard line of the high school field, alone, hands in my jacket pockets, breath fogging under the stadium lights. The season was over, but the field still hummed with ghosts. It had taken me a while to come back here. Not to teach. Not to coach. Just to stand. To remember. There'd been a time I thought this place defined me. The wins. The trophies. The Friday night chants echoing across the cornfields. But that was before the storm. Before I learned how fast loyalty turns to leverage. How even your own wife, your supposed teammate, could sell your soul if the bid was high enough. I didn't rebuild my old life. I built a new one. Smaller. Quieter. Stronger. The house on the lake turned out to be perfect. I started volunteering at the youth center. Helped some local boys without fathers learn how to throw a spiral. Not for glory, just so they had someone to catch it. And I met someone. Her name's Ellie. She's a school nurse. Doesn't care about football, doesn't care about the scoreboard. First time she heard what happened, she just said, "That must have hurt like hell." Then she poured me coffee. No judgment, no pity, just a seat at her table. People still ask me sometimes, if I could go back, would I change anything? I don't answer. Not because I'm bitter, because I already did go back. I saw the rot, and I cut it out. Bryce took a plea deal. 3 years, minimum. Dana moved to a smaller town upstate. Rumor has it she teaches yoga now. Fine by me. I never looked back. Last fall, one of my former players, Drew, got his first college start. Sent me a picture in his new jersey, grinning like a fool. Under it, a message. "You saved my life, coach. I never told you that. But I watched how you stood up when everything went to hell. That taught me how to be a man." That photo sits on my fridge. Not the rings. Not the plaques. Just that. This story wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering who I was when they all tried to make me forget. And now, I'm still standing. But I'll never stand next to liars again.